Brothers and sisters, it's fantastic to be with you today. This is Latter-day Light on the Hill. My name is Tom Holton. Recently I did a video on why the church needs more than $100 billion. And there was a lot of commentary on that video, much of which is positive and much, of course, was not, which is to be anticipated. But there was a great deal of interest in that video. And of course, this concept of the finances of the church is really pertinent and of interest to a lot of people. Today, I'm going to talk briefly, not about the finances of the church per se, but about the emphasis that the church has on teaching its members to get out of debt, to stay out of debt, to get out of debt, to live by a budget, to live by a financial plan, a prudent financial plan. And this sense of the financial instruction, the temporal instruction that the church gives us as members, and what it encourages us to do in terms of being prudent with our money, in terms of discharging our stewardship, our financial stewardship, our temporal stewardship in an inspired way. And I think the church is a brilliant organization at this. I, by my own experience, have spent a lot of time in my career in financial, legal subjects, in administration and management, and I'm struck by the relevance of these topics. We're all interested, I think, in money, and we're all interested in our finances, and these are very relevant and pertinent topics. Particularly, I want to emphasize the fact that in these latter days, I feel like the Lord's covenant people are prospering, that we are prospering in ways we perhaps have never prospered before. And I've seen that in my life, I've seen that in my family, and I've seen the great prospering that comes to us, and not just spiritually, but also temporally, as we observe the commandments of the Lord, as we keep His statutes, as we obey His dictates, as we follow His law, we are blessed. So I want to talk about that. You may remember quite a few years ago now, the church, this is actually over a decade ago, the church produced this pamphlet, My Path to Self-Reliance, and also several other documents in connection with this. The church has a range of courses, self-reliance courses, emotional resilience, finding better employment, starting your own business, all these sorts of courses which are intended to help the members of the church in whatever situation they're in whatever country they're in, to advance their educational and social and temporal and spiritual acuity and skills and abilities. And again, I think the church is absolutely brilliant at doing that. And I wanted to relate my own personal experience of using this. Myself and my wife got these papers which are produced by the self-reliance services of the church, and we did a course on financial, temporal well-being, welfare that the church runs, the 12-week course, and we did other courses as well. And we, as part of this project of My Path to Self-Reliance, we actually worked on this, and we went through the list, what this booklet invites us to do, under inspiration of the Lord, under honesty and a sense of faith. We were asked to list what we spend on a regular basis, a weekly basis, what we spend, and then to indicate how self-reliant we were. Were we never able to do the things that were expected of us or hoped of us? Were we sometimes able to do them? Were we often able to do them? Or were we always able to do them? And you'll see here in the list, that's those things are listed. Then everyone was invited to fill in each item and to answer the questions honestly, truthfully, but also with a sense of faith. And then the third step was to ask ourselves how much we actually needed to be self-reliant. Self-reliant in that sense of being able to rely on ourselves and our own resources without having to be in a situation where we were heavily reliant on others, and that others might be the church or other persons. And this was a really interesting experience to have, because whenever it was, 8 years ago or maybe a bit longer, I don't remember exactly when we did it, but we basically went through the process, and we were very honest and very frank about our level of self-reliance. And of course, at that time, we were serving faithfully in the church. We've been paying our tithes and offerings our whole married life, which is 26 years this year. And so even at that juncture, we'd been married for a long time, and we'd been paying our tithes and offerings faithfully, keeping the commandments, attending the temple, trying to live faithfully as dedicated Latter-day Saints, serving in our callings. I'd been working in a managerial post, but a fairly modest income, to be honest. My wife was a stay-at-home mother, which she loved to do. And we had decided when we got married that that's what we would do. And obviously that was a difficult thing to do, because so much of society is focused on having two income earners in the home. So we found that particularly challenging, but we felt like it was the right for our circumstances, the right thing to do for us. And I appreciate that that's a decision that every couple needs to make for themselves, counseling with the Lord and with their priesthood leaders as to what's right for them. But in our situation, we felt that that was the appropriate thing. Now, we did this analysis, and what was interesting to us was we were not self-reliant in the sense that this booklet laid out, and we were struck by that. We wrote down the figures for how much we earned and how much we spent, and we also worked out the figures of how much we would need to be self-reliant, and specifically the income we would need to earn in order to be self-reliant according to this standard. And we found out that the income we needed was effectively double what we were actually earning. And that was a wake-up call. It wasn't a huge surprise in a sense, because we had been living paycheck to paycheck for a long time, and it was quite a challenge. But we were trying to be faithful and do the right thing and do the Lord's will, seeking to be prudent, seeking to improve our employability, seeking to be prudent with our resources and have an honourable stewardship. And a church life was helping us. I mean, the church and the gospel teach so many wonderful principles about getting out of debts, avoiding debt unless it's absolutely necessary for certain things, being prudent in our expenditure, of course, paying our tithes and our offerings, always paying our honest tithing to the Lord, and always being generous in our offerings to others. And those, to me, are profound principles, that as we treat the Lord as our preferred creditor, as we pay him faithfully, diligently, our tithes, then we will be blessed when the windows of heaven open up to us. And also as we're generous in our offerings, our fast offerings, not miserly or stingy, but as we bless and benefit the lives of others in need, we ourselves are blessed. And I realize that sometimes those blessings come spiritually rather than temporally, although the Lord says everything to him is spiritual, and I think that's right. But there's also a sense in which the Lord's people prosper temporally. We know that Abraham was a wealthy man. We know that Lehi was a wealthy man. Now, that doesn't mean that you have to be wealthy to be a disciple. And it doesn't mean people who are poor aren't favored of the Lord. But what it does mean is that if we engage with the Lord's pattern, I believe, and I've come to know, that the Lord will prosper us in the land. This is the message of the Bible. It's the message of the Book of Mormon. It's the message of the Doctrine and Covenants and the Pearl of Great Price, that the covenant people of the Lord will prosper in the land as they follow his law, as they observe wise principles of stewardship, and not just spiritual stewardship, but financial stewardship, living within our means, being wise, saving for a day of need, honoring our obligations, being generous in our offerings, all those principles, hard work, self-sacrifice, determination, honesty, ethical living, being transparent and honest and fair, not being greedy or self-centered, or just being decent people according to the covenant. My own experience and my wife's experience is pretty profound in this. So we did this about 7 or 8 years ago, I suppose, maybe a bit longer at this juncture. And at that time, as I say, we were earning basically half what we needed to be self-reliant. And of course, I was serving in leadership at that time. I mean, I'd served as an elders quorum president. I was serving as branch president for a long time, and serving on the High Council, served on bishoprics and other things. So I've served in lots of leadership experience. And even during a lot of that time, I wasn't fully self-reliant. So we wrote down these numbers, and I think what happened was miraculous in many ways through various events, various opportunities that came about, and visualizing what needed to happen and being aligned with the will of the Lord, being aligned with what the Lord wanted us to do, being faithful and being prayerful and being intentional. He prospered us. I was able in the last 5 years, 6 years, I was able to get 3 promotions at work in quite quick succession, unusually quick succession. Opportunities came about. And so I got 3 promotions, and also other opportunities that have happened in our lives where my wife and I have been able to earn other income from other means beyond just my working in my full-time job. And also not just other opportunities, but also extra intelligence. That I often think the Lord, when we pay our tithes and our offerings and when we're trying to be faithful, the Lord actually gives us intelligence. He gives us smarter ways of using the resources we have. He opens our understanding. And to us, for example, one of the things we started to realize was, we need to move away from our having a mortgage. We wanted to pay off our mortgage as soon as we could. And so a couple of years ago, we were able to clear our mortgage. So when I was turned 50, we were 50 and we cleared our mortgage, my wife and I. And what a great relief that was, to have paid our mortgage off, to be debt-free from the point of view of having no mortgage. It was a great relief. And that was something that the Lord had inspired us to do. And it really helped us to feel that release from bondage, that sense of the burden being lifted. And it was tough when we were doing it because we had to pay off extra amounts. We were making extra repayments, which meant there were certain things we couldn't do. Certain experiences we had to limit ourselves from having that might have been nice to do, but we felt like we have a goal here and we need to achieve it. And particularly over the last 5 years, where we really put a lot of effort and money into that money that we got in certain situations, in family situations, as gifts and things like that we put against our mortgage. And to pay it off was such a great relief. And we just feel so much lighter and so much happier now. Also, other things happened to us that we learned that the banking institutions we were with were really not giving us any benefit for our money. They were charging us fees, quite heavy fees, and not really giving us any interest. And so we moved away through a various sequence of events, through inspiration. We've now aligned ourselves with financial organizations that are giving us benefit of our money in terms of savings and investments. And we've been able to invest in a prudent way that's producing benefits to us, and over the short term and over the long term. And the promotion that I got at work now means that I have more than the salary that we'd written down on that sheet, whatever it was, 8-10 years ago. We'd written down a figure, and that was like a doubling of the salary that we were getting at that time. So it was a great expectation. It was a great leap of faith to think that that was even possible. But the Lord prepared a way. He fulfilled his promise. We followed his prophet's word of following this plan, this program, and the Lord blessed us. So now my salary is more than that hoped for, ambitious, highly visionary figure that we had. And what a blessing that's been. What an absolute blessing. And just other opportunities that we've had where the Lord has blessed us, where family have helped us in such a way that we've been able to, for example, get a car. We bought a new car, and almost entirely it was a gift to us from family. And other things that we've been able to acquire have been gifted to us from family and other people in other situations. And of course, we've tried to do that with other people. We've tried to help other people, missionaries going on a mission, and other people in need. We've tried to help in various ways. And so the point I'm making about all of this is that if we honor the Lord, he will honor us. If we hearken to the Lord, he will prosper us in the land. He will bless us with the things we need to be blessed with. That won't always be automatic. It won't be always obvious. It won't always be easy, but it will happen. So we have these new financial institutions that we're banking with now, and they're all giving us much better rates of return for our savings and things like that. And other avenues of money earning that have come our way that we hadn't even thought of before. And I think that's part of the spiritual intelligence that the Lord gives us. It's part of the revelation that covenant saints are receiving. Not just me, not just my wife, but my son and his wife, my daughter-in-law, and my family and friends and other members of the church who I see in Ireland, here in Ireland where I live, and in other places around the world, that the saints are prospering with opportunities, with insight, with knowledge, with wisdom. Because the Lord is the great multiplier. He reaps where he hasn't sown. He expects us to give usury to him, or to give interest, to make good on his return. And in my experience, the Lord doesn't just bless us, he blesses us exponentially. And this doesn't always happen quickly or even evidently. We don't always see it, but it does happen in time. And over time, we see it. And that's been my experience. That's been my witness, that the Lord wants us to get out of debt, that the Lord wants us to prosper. He doesn't want us to remain in poverty. He doesn't want us to remain victim to circumstances. He wants us to gain an education, to gain skills, to seek knowledge, to seek wisdom, including secular knowledge, and in a sense, there's no such thing as secular knowledge only, because we believe all things are spiritual. But the Lord can give us instruction. He's more intelligent than we are. He is our partner in the business we call life. And in our business, whether it be our day-to-day job, whether it be our family finances, whether it be our hobbies, whether it be our self-employment, whatever it be, our land, our flocks, our shares, our stocks, our commodities, our interest, our savings, our investments, all of these things, according to the Book of Mormon, we can pray over them that they increase, that our flocks and our lands and our properties increase for the good of the kingdom, for the benefit of our families, for the blessing of this church and the world. Because this church doesn't just ask things of people, it gives them an opportunity to become something. And it helps them to develop. It gives them the capacity to learn and grow and develop in new ways. And that's my experience, that the church has inspired me to be upward reaching, to be upwardly mobile. And I believe all of us can do that. And I've come from very humble circumstances, and I'm still in very humble circumstances. I'm not rich by the ways and standards of the world comparatively, but I now have double the income that I had some 7-8 years ago. And that was miraculous to me. I didn't always know, how is this going to happen? But the Lord asks us to trust him. And then he gives us intelligence. He gives us confidence. He gives us opportunities. He gives us connections that will help us to prosper in the land. And I believe that with all my soul, that he can give us beauty for ashes. He can turn things to our good. He wants to be a partner in our business, not a silent partner, but an invested partner, a partner that will discuss things, that will counsel with us, that will teach us, that will guide us, that will give us insights we've never seen before, knowledge we never knew, experience we could only guess would come into our lives. He wants us to be good managers, good leaders, good engineers, good doctors, good accountants, good plumbers, good electricians, good farmers, good lawyers, good hoteliers, whatever it is. Good artists and shopkeepers and all the things that we can do. And it doesn't matter if we feel that they are of low station. The Lord can prosper us in that role. He can make us more valuable, to add more value. And we will be noticed. We are noticed. Latter-day Saints who are honest, faithful, hardworking, dependable, they are noticed by their employers. They are noticed by their colleagues because of their faithfulness. And I've seen this happening in my own life and in the lives of other Latter-day Saints around me. And of course, the Lord can bless all people. It's not just Latter-day Saints that he blesses, but I do believe the covenant people have a particular responsibility to be blessed in all things spiritual and temporal, because we have a work of salvation to perform, and that requires resources. And it's not just the church that needs resources, it's the people of God. We can't give people lifts if we don't have cars to drive. We can't give the Lord tithing if we have no money. We can't serve other people if we have no if we have no desire, and if we have no time, or if we have no inclination or capacities or abilities. So the Lord uses everything in his storehouse to bless the lives of his children and his people. So this has been my experience, my path to self-reliance. Now, this is my experience that this is the Lord's path. This is the Lord's way, the path of prosperity. I don't mean to suggest that every member of the church is going to be a millionaire or anything like that, but what I'm teaching and what I'm sharing and what I'm feeling is that the Lord doesn't want us to remain in poverty. He wants us to experience self-reliance. He wants us to grow and prosper, to expand. He wants to add intelligence to us, to magnify our efforts, to enlarge our holdings. And this is the gospel in which we believe. We believe in a legacy. We believe in an inheritance of eternal life, that there's a mansion in heaven, a room for us, a kingdom, and that all who are willing to comply with his laws can receive an inheritance. It's not limited to a few. It's everyone who's willing to abide by the sacred laws of the Lord. I believe that this church is a marvelous, wonderful church because it teaches its members to have ambition. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that, to have an upward reach, to want to be mobile, to want to do better, to want to be educated, to want to learn, to want to add value, to contribute to our societies, to give of the skills we have in service to humanity. And that's how we add value, by giving, by seeing the unseen, by meeting the unmet need, by solving the unsolved problem, by helping in ways that others aren't helping, that we go the extra mile, we go the distance, we do what the Lord would do. If someone sues us at the law and takes our coat, we give them our cloak also. By that, I think he means that our disposition is one of serving and blessing and helping, like the story of Abraham and Lot, which is a wonderful story where they go to the promised land, and it needs to be partitioned between them. And Abraham says, take the best piece of ground, and I'll take the worst piece. And then, of course, Abraham flourishes and the land prospers in amazing ways. So the Lord turns a dry desert into a beautiful, bountiful, blossoming terrain of garden, into a joyful feast, a delight. He gives water to parched ground. He gives bounty where there is famine. He gives abundance where there is scarcity. And so, brothers and sisters, I want to bear my testimony. I'm so grateful for the situation I'm in now. And of course, at this stage of life, looking back, saying it's been a long road, but now to be mortgage-free, to have resources where we can be self-reliant. And of course, we're still not out of the woods. We're still planning in terms of looking forward to our future and trying to save and trying to be wise in our expenditures. And that requires ongoing maintenance and rectification and realignment and recalibration to keep on track and to not make mistakes. Or if we make mistakes, try and learn from them and learn to be better. So there's always unexpected things that happen, and we all have to be wise. We need to set aside money for a rainy day and all those things that we're trying to do, to look to our future, to look to our retirement and being able to serve in the house of the Lord at that time. So all these things we have to look forward to, but now is the time to be laying that foundation. I believe with all my soul that this church is inspired to help us as individuals and as families to carve out a better path, to not always have a scarcity mindset or not always think like a poor people, but to think in terms of abundance, to think in terms of wealth creation. And real wealth is about ideas. It's about the ability to think of something that will add value to the world around us and to translate that idea into reality. That's really what it is. All the physical things we have are simply a manifestation of that ability. The ability to take an idea, a concept, a notion, and turn it into something physical, something real, something that's actualized in the tangible world. And that's the genius of the Lord, that he takes matter and organizes it and beautifies it and directs it and creates it in that sense, not out of nothing, but he organizes out of the chaos and brings light and goodness and beauty and abundance. And so these are the principles of the gospel. It's a miracle. in my life to see what the Lord has blessed us with. And we are just simple, everyday members of the church. And I believe this principle is happening all over the world, in every nation, that members of the Lord's church are prospering, even temporally, prospering in their education, prospering in their resources, prospering in their employment, prospering in their self-employment, prospering in the land and on the land, their flocks, their fields, all their goods, all their property is increasing. And it is appropriate for us to pray that we will prosper in the land, so that our families will be blessed, our units, our wards and branches and stakes will be prospered, our church will be prospered, and that the work of salvation will flourish and hasten, that we will be ready to do all the things the Lord would have us do and keep things in balance. And so it's okay for us to be well off as Latter-day Saints and to prosper and to do good, to benefit, to serve others. If we have resources, we can bless and benefit the lives of those around us. And it's my belief that that's our ministry, that the Lord would have us all prosper in the land, because then we can serve and bless others. We can help those who are in need of help, and we ourselves can be helped in times of need. And that reciprocal love, that service, that giving is something, that mutuality, that transference of things or ideas or of love or of knowledge, that happens all the time in the church. So I bear testimony that the path to self-reliance is the Saviour's path. It's the path of prophets. It's the path of kings. It's the path of saints. It's that path that we need to follow, to look to the condition of our finances, to look to spend less than we earn, to seek to earn more in honest ways, in creative ways, to seek to know our value, to seek to know our skills and our worth and our abilities, to not undermine our worth, to not trivialize our contribution, to be able to present ourselves with confidence that we are God's children. We are endowed with power. We are intelligent. We are articulate. We are well educated. We are capable. We are hardworking. We are energetic. We are enthusiastic. We are very personable. And we love to fellowship, and we love to help. We love to serve. When others say no, we say yes, in the sense that we love to serve, we love to bless, we love to lift, we love to be an open door, to be approachable, to help people to help themselves, to lift people, to bless people, to serve people, to encourage them to become all that they can. We're like a block of wood that's being carved and cultivated and sculpted into something beautiful and something wondrous. I want to bear my testimony of these things. I know these things. I've experienced it for myself. We've prospered in the land, and I feel like we're the same as millions of others of Latter-day Saints who have prospered because of the Lord's commands, because of trying to do what's right, stumbling, falling, faltering, but getting up, trying to be diligent, opening our eyes at times, gaining greater wisdom, gaining greater insight from the temple, from the scriptures, from the leading brethren and sisters of the church, who guide us about how to be better, how to be wiser, how to be more exemplary in the way we live, more excellent, more refined, more polished versions of ourselves, how to be more employable, and how to add more value. That's really what I'm trying to say, is that with the Lord's help, He will prosper us. He will make us more fit for the kingdom, more useful vessels, more able to do whatever He wants us to do. If the Lord wants us to go somewhere as a missionary, we'll be able to go. If the Lord wants us to take on a heavy calling, we'll be able to do it. If the Lord wants us to use our car to help people get to church, we'll be able to do it. Because we'll have resources. We'll have food on our shelves. We'll have money in our bank. We'll have petrol in our car. We'll have testimony and faith and miracles and stories to talk about. So, brothers and sisters, I encourage each and every one of us to look to the condition of our finances, to get out of debt, to pay off our loans and our debts as soon as feasible, to get an education, to be hardworking and smart working, to use the tools God has given us in righteous ways, to contribute, to add value, to use our distinctive gifts, our God-given gifts, to bless the lives of those around us, whether we are writers or teachers or painters or sculptors or scientists or astronauts or whatever we are, farmers, plumbers, electricians, that we use those gifts to prosper and bless and serve each other, to serve the kingdom, to bring honor to the Lord, bring glory to our Father in heaven. I'm so grateful now I'm in a position to be self-reliant after all these years, and now after learning some principles of faith, after learning the importance of visualizing, being a visionary person, realizing that the Lord wants us to be visionary, that he wants us to be ambitious, that he wants us to reach high, not to look down low, not to be in poverty, not to have a poor mindset, but to believe that we can achieve something in honest and hard-working ways, but in smart ways, to let our resources work for us, let our money work for us, to make wise investments, to save, to be prudent, not to waste our resources or waste our time, but to use our money and time and other resources wisely, to not be guided by the world, but to be guided by God and his prophets, the Spirit of the Lord. I believe all of that. I believe that this church is prospering a people and preparing us for the second coming of the Lord, which is imminent in my view. But we need to be ready. We need to be a people that can work, that can build a new Jerusalem, that can sustain the cause of Zion, that can strengthen the feeble knees, that can hold up the weak and bless and build and beautify. I so testify. I declare that Jesus is the Christ, the living Messiah, that he lives, that he guides this church. I testify that President Nelson is God's very prophet on the earth, a man of righteousness. I testify that Joseph Smith is a prophet, called of God to establish Zion, to build a new Zion, a new order amongst us, an order of righteousness, a kingdom of glory, a kingdom of priests and queens and kings and priestesses, a royal house of righteousness. And that requires effort, it requires sacrifice, it requires prudence, morality, purity, virtue, love, genuineness, gentleness, mercy, love unfeigned, all the compassionate, brave, and ethical things we talk about. I testify that this church is God's very church on the earth, that the Holy Ghost inspires us to know what is true. And as we listen to his intelligence, his light, his guidance, we will be smarter, we will be brighter, we will be quicker, we will be wiser at making intelligent use of our resources. We will prosper, we will abound, we will progress. It shall come to pass that we will be blessed. I testify of our Father in heaven that he indeed lives, and he is our Father. He doesn't give us bad gifts, but he gives us good gifts. He gives us every needed thing and will give us blessings far beyond what we think we deserve or what we can envision. He will enlarge our vision and magnify our viewpoint. I testify that that's been happening to me, and it's been miraculous to me to see that prospering, to see that building, to see the Lord bless me with resources that at one time seemed like an impossible hope. We have to have faith. And that means thinking outside the box. It means stretching yourself into an uncomfortable zone beyond your normal comfort, but where you'll find that the Lord will comfort you as you stretch yourself. It means reaching for the impossible thing, stretching beyond what you think you know, and being willing to adapt and change and be flexible and learn new things and learn new ways of reacting and new ways of seeing the world. All of these things. A shift in mind, a paradigm shift, a shift in heart, a shift in feeling. So the Lord is prospering us. He is preparing us from the Philippines to Ireland to the United States to Chile to South Africa to Fiji, all across the world. He is preparing his people. He's prospering them. He's giving them the resources they need to bring about all the promises that the prophets have given. I so testify that these things are true, but they are not just true, they are beautiful. I invite us all to be covenant yoked to the Lord and to prosper because of being yoked with him. Jesus is our redeeming Lord. He's our prospering Lord. He's our bounteous, bountiful, abundant Lord, and he will give us mansions and flocks and fields and valleys and rivers of gold and all the blessings that we stand in need of if we but trust in him and follow him wherever he leads. I so testify. Have a beautiful, wonderful remainder of your day.